U.S. intelligence agency mind control.
For Prager University.
Go fuck yourself.
I agree.
6th, 1811, the New York Historical Society
If I ever go to Dusseldorf, I'm going to take a photo there. I now know where it is.
invited former senator and future almost president DeWitt Clinton to give a speech at their annual meeting. Clinton took that.
Any relations?
I believe they still have raves there in honoring of that epic rave.
Well, it's funny. I this chick popped up on my threads, and I was looking through one of her posts, and there was a coordinate, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it was to a place in Germany, and they're like, there's a rave. I'm like, what the fuck? They just dropped coordinates? That's fucking awesome.
Them up on their offer and used the opportunity to deliver a 90-minute monologue, arguing that the Iroquois were, in his words, the Romans of the Western world.
True. So
Clinton's overall argument was that New York academia was not spending enough time studying the Iroquois Confederacy. This was true. The Iroquois definitely deserved some serious scholarship, but not for the reasons given by DeWitt Clinton.
How is he pronouncing it?
It was a common scholarship, but not for the reasons given by Iroquois definitely deserved
correctly.
Nice.
Some serious scholarship, but not for the reasons given by DeWitt Clinton. It was a common trope at the time to draw this artificial link between the Iroquois and the Romans, but in the final analysis, this turned out to be reductive and lazy and fundamentally wrong.
True.
Today we can do better.
Can do better.
I think it's a fine general thing to say. Oh, look. So, hang on.
There's a saying.
Go back. So, what's interesting here is that the blue is their blue is the Imperial Conquest from the Beaver Wars. So, the people in that region, they basically all got smallpox and died. And so, for 100 years, the Iroquois Empire, through trade and getting firearms from the Dutch and shit, they were able to expand and take all that land.
Damn.
And it's called the Beaver Wars.
Because it was over beaver pelts, right?
I mean, it's over hunting grounds.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the height of their empire.
Imagine how different America would be if the beaver got driven to extinction.
But then they end up getting smallpox and they decline so it's that whole thing where it's empires only last 100 years.
That's what they fucking get for being imperialist.
Well, I mean, come on.
This is fucking karma.
But you know how they say that thing where it's empires only last 100 years?
Yes, yeah. Or it's 300 years or whatever. Rome fell in 300 years, whatever the fuck they say. But did you notice that it's color coded too? They split the color coding on the map as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, also if you look where the actual nations are, it's subdivided there too.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out. Yeah,
it's got little slitties.
There's a saying that goes, "The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name." The name Iroquois doesn't really tell us anything useful, and the reason for that is that it's not their proper name. The Iroquois are known among themselves as the Haudenosaunee, which means the people of the Longhouse. That should give us a clue as to who these people
are. I mean, I knew that they were the people of the Longhouse. I didn't know that was the word that they used, though. I thought they just
How
used
did he pronounce
Iroquois.
it, though?
Why do they love double E's, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans?
Which means the people of the Iroquois are known among themselves as the Haudenosaunee, which means
Haudenosaunee.
The people of the Longhouse. That should...
I'm assuming that the Shawnee, because the double E, are all Native American tribes the people of something? Is that generally what that means?
No. So, each of the nations in the Iroquois
No,
where,
I mean in general, not just Iroquois. I'm talking about the general names.
Well, I'm explaining. No, it's not like that. So
Okay.
specifically, when we're talking about the Iroquois, with the people of the Longhouse, referring to the entire government and structure,
Yes.
the individual tribes, right? So like the Tuscarora, who are the ones, they're the newcomers, right? Tuscarora means people of hemp.
Okay.
So it's like the people of, and then they had like different like each one. So it's like I think Onondaga was like the people on the hill.
Yeah. Okay. Because the
people,
interesting...
and then one is the people of Flint, because they mined the Flint weapons and stuff.
Yeah. Like I think it's probably a transliteration more than anything else. Because if it's the people I'm assuming that all the native tribes had different languages too. Like there's no way that they all had the same language.
Iroquois is the language.
No, I mean, again, I'm talking in generalities, not just the Iroquois.
So then everyone else around them was Algonquin, and that was the language. So they spoke. Yeah, okay. So they did speak different languages there, and then like Cherokee is a language as well, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's just like calling the British English. So people get all uptight thinking that you have to call them the Haudenosaunee.
Yeah.
And it's like not necessarily. That's like being like you must call the English British.
I will call them Poms and tell them to go fuck themselves.
But give us a clue.
You don't get to pick what I call you, cunt.
Clue as to who these people are. The Haudenosaunee are not one people, but many peoples, knit together by a common culture and political system. The 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee were, also, in descending order of size,
the
Seneca,
6 nations is also how you can refer to them as well.
The Iroquois?
Yeah, so they'll say the 5 nations are the 6 nations.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it means the extended house, which is the longhouse.
Mohawk, the Cayuga, the Onondaga, and the Oneida. These 5 nations formed a confederacy. Each...
Did he pronounce that correctly?
Well, first of all, that is the wrong spelling. That's the modern spelling. So
I was going to say, isn't it Onondaga?
Well, now it's Onondaga with that spelling, but Onondaga is, as far as I know, the right way to say it.
Okay.
Semi-autonomous, but united under one supranational government. We are going to tackle that government in a few minutes, but in order to understand it, we must first understand the Haudenosaunee's most potent political entity. Any guesses as to what that was? If only we had some kind of clue. Oh, wait.
The Great Longhouse?
Proper names. They make history easy. For centuries, longhouses were some of the largest and most sophisticated buildings on the continent, with some approaching 100 meters long. The typical longhouse supported 6 to 10 nuclear families, each with their own little section.
I'll take you to one. They still exist.
Families opposite each other shared...
That's cool.
Yeah. No, we have, at the fairgrounds here, they actually have a historic Iroquois village that they maintain.
Cool.
So, and it has like, like it has props and stuff in it. It's like a little museum piece.
It's pretty cool.
Communal fires, which ran the length of the building. Pay attention, because the imagery of the longhouse and the communal fire is going to come up a lot when we get into the Haudenosaunee government. But we're not there yet. First...
Well, it's funny. This is the problem, right? You make one thing that's kind of dodgy, and this is what happens. That's the problem.
We need to discuss who got to participate in that government, because it's no simple thing. Haudenosaunee society was a matriarchy, meaning that ultimate political power rested with women. The most important manifestation of this power was in the position of clan mother. The clan mother was basically the head of each family. But in this case, the word family had a pretty expansive meaning. The term included the clan mother's spouse and children, obviously, but also her daughter's spouses and their children, as well as her own sisters, their spouses, and their children. As you can imagine, a clan mother's family could easily number in the hundreds, which is where the clan part of the name came from. Everybody in a clan mother's extended family were lumped together and thrown into one or several longhouses. On all political matters, the clan mother spoke on behalf of the entire longhouse. This was the most important political relationship in Haudenosaunee society. Each clan mother was empowered to appoint men from her own clan into key political positions. While in these positions, these people became the personal representatives of the clan mother, and through her, the entire longhouse.
So, Jack, I assume so far this is just a refresher for you because you knew all this.
I know all this, yeah. The question, I'm very interested how the matriarchal society works. That's where all my questions would go.
So basically,
I'm so curious.
Basically, the oldest woman in the village is the clan
Really
mother.
amazing.
Yeah.
Also allowed to unappoint them at any time for any reason.
It's very democratic confederalist.
Historian
that's very anarchist of them.
William N. Fenton has said that there's no evidence of one of these political appointees ever.
Even though the clan mother's kind of hierarchical, or is it more of a ceremonial thing as like a respect thing? Or is it strictly hierarchical, like she can order people around and shit? Like, how does it actually work?
I mean, she appoints the Senate.
But she can also remove them and change them at any point, no?
I think so.
So this is what I'm saying, is that these are the questions that I want to ask. Because I'm very curious.
Let me repeat, ever defying the wishes of his clan mother. All political appointees are simply known by the catch-all term, chief. There were 4...
Oh my god. You're fucking kidding me.
What?
It's just the title for their fucking... It's just... Chief was their fucking title for senator. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And then there's also Big Chief.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so Mohawk was
culture.
Flintstone place.
Okay.
People
Every
of Flint
culture
Nation.
representation of Native Americans has the chief as like the big guy, like the president, the dude who tells people what to do that doesn't get the fight. This guy just he's a politician. He's a fucking rep of the people. that has subverted
and normally these are like
ever thought.
Normally these are like men just coming of age too. So we're talking to like 18 to 25 who would be appointed in these positions. So they're actually like pretty low on the societal totem pole.
That's fucking awesome.
Kinds of chiefs: civil chiefs, war chiefs, peace chiefs, and sachems. As you can imagine, civil chiefs governed settlements, war chiefs did strategic war planning, and peace chiefs dealt with diplomacy and trade. We can ignore sachems for the moment, because we're going to get into that later.
Chief Keef?
The most important thing to remember is that every chief was backed by a clan mother, and that the clans, through the clan mothers, remained the most important political unit. All clans within each nation were arbitrarily divided into 2 groups, which ethnographers call moieties. There's not that much to say about it.
It's very randomly assigned is so interesting. It's like they just get given numbers. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Go to your groups. This is fucking great.
About moieties right now, since they're largely ceremonial, but you need to know what they are because they're going to come up later. To summarize, one or several longhouses made a clan, several clans made a moiety, and 2 moieties made a nation. Clan mothers picked the chiefs, and the chiefs helped administer each nation. But there's one more thing we haven't considered yet. The actual subject at hand. The fact that 5 nations made a confederacy.
So there's no real like size limit on the clans then. Realistically, it's however long the houses were.
Yeah.
Interesting.
5 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy met in Onondaga territory and formed the Haudenosaunee Council.
Yeah, here's me.
Who did this?
When he keeps saying Onondaga, he's trying to say it how it's supposed to be pronounced.
But he keeps,
today,
yeah,
which is not what it's Onondaga. It's exactly how it sounds.
Yeah.
Sachems.
I know because
Remember,
I'm from
sachems were the
Onondaga County.
4th category of chief that I said we'd get into later. Well, buckle up because we're getting into it now. The Haudenosaunee Council consisted of 50 sachems.
Every time he says that word, I'm just like, oh, Naruto? It just sounds like some shit out of Naruto.
From across the 5 nations. Membership in the council broke down like this. The Mohawk sent 9 sachems. The Onondaga sent 14.
Oh, so
the Seneca sent 8.
These are the reps from each nation, basically. Okay.
And also, it's judged by population as well.
Yeah, that's yeah, because it's
which is like
the biggest. The biggest agree, smallest, right? That's how it works.
No. The smallest have to agree, then the next smallest, and then the last one is the biggest.
The biggest. Okay, so it's the other way.
So
around.
all 4 nations have to agree before it goes to Onondaga.
Yeah. Okay. So that's basically making sure that the smaller groups are represented and get a say first, so that their interests are seen.
Yeah, but also it leaves ultimate veto power to the largest group, because they can if it goes all the way to the top, the Onondaga, if they just veto it, it means it goes back down to the lowest thing, and they have to come up with a new agreement.
Oh my god!
So it can be like, if you imagine it today with how the Republican Party is and the fuckery that would go on.
Yeah, but nothing would get done. But this is the other thing: is that if this is how politics worked in America, the state could pull their senators and replace them. Right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. So
I mean,
if
it worked for them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if at the time they were to not be able to make an agreement, pull all your reps, resort them, send them back. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities.
Oneida sent 9, and the Cayuga sent 10. It would be embarrassing if that didn't add up to 50. No, good. Under the Confederacy, the 5 nations considered themselves one family, living under the same longhouse. This symbolism was extremely important. The Mohawk were the founders of the Confederacy, and as such, they were recognized as the theoretical eldest sibling of this theoretical family in this theoretical longhouse.
Interesting.
The Onondaga were recognized as the middle sibling, and the Seneca,
lore, right?
Yeah.
So the lore is that Hiawatha is the Mohawk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the chief's name. We'll just call him Chief Onondaga.
Chief guy.
He was corrupted by evil magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hiawatha did a cleansing ritual where he used shells to pull the snakes from his hair.
Okay.
And then they took all the weapons and buried them, and then planted the great tree on top of them. The tree,
yes.
So it's like Hiawatha may not have even been a real person.
You have definitely told me about that before. As soon as you said weapons, I'm like, this is the tree thing, yeah.
Were recognized as the youngest sibling. Then, for a change of pace, the Oneida and the Cayuga were recognized as another set of child siblings, with the Oneida being the elder and the Cayuga being the younger. This wasn't just for fun. The exact positioning within this family was the end result of some tough negotiations and would have real-world implications. I explained moieties a minute ago, and that's going to come in handy now. This family structure divided the 5 nations into 2 moieties. The Mohawk, the Onondaga, and the Seneca formed the senior moiety, and the Oneida and the Cayuga formed the junior moiety. Remember how different nuclear families would come together to share a fire in the middle of the longhouse? That conceptual framework came into play here. Council meetings took place around the eternal fire of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. As hosts, the Onondaga Nation was entrusted with maintaining this fire year-round. During actual council meetings, for both symbolic and practical reasons, the job of maintaining the fire fell to the 14 Onondaga sachems, who sat in the center of the longhouse, closest to the fire. In the literature, these are sometimes called the Onondaga Firekeepers. The 2 remaining nations from the senior moiety sat together on one side of the fire, and the 2 nations from the junior moiety sat on the other.
Amazing.
Let's get into how the council worked. Step 1. Somebody introduces a thing. Am I going too fast?
Hell yeah,
This
we
would
love
normally be a
things.
foreign policy thing, so for the sake of clarity, we're going to pretend that one of the Mohawk sachems introduced a peace treaty or something. Step 2.
Beavers.
Whichever nation brought the proposal would debate the issue among themselves, with everybody else looking on. Multiple speakers were given a chance to make their case, but eventually, the sachems within that nation had to come to some sort of consensus.
That's awesome. So not only do they have to propose something, they have to figure it out between themselves, and then they have to argue with the other people to figure out what that'll work for them. And if that doesn't work, they have to go back and do that again. See, this is the democracy is slow.
Still one of the highest rated civics.
Yeah. It's talking about democracy being slow. If you guys haven't seen Shin Godzilla, watch it. I'm not going to tell you why
I just
I'm
watched
referencing that now.
I just watched Godzilla 1 or whatever it was called.
-1. How good is it?
Did you know they have a version that's all black and white?
In black and white? Yes, I watched it. It's fucking incredible.
I only watched the color version. I saw
I watched the color one
after.
I think I watched the colored one in the cinema actually.
Also, so like
specifically
here's the
went to the
thing.
movies.
Okay, spoilers for anyone about a Godzilla movie. The first explosion that happens where the girl pushes him, I knew she was going to come back when it didn't show her body.
True. That's a good point, yeah.
So I was like, are they going to show her body? No, she's still alive.
How good is that scene though? What's your tangents? We'll get to it when we go on to the alien
It was
Romulus.
fine. It was a Godzilla movie, you know.
Yeah, I thought after Shin Godzilla and his atomic
which
breath,
I haven't seen.
Shin Godzilla is amazing.
Yeah, the atomic breath basically being the equivalent of a nuclear bomb is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. The fact that he like revs it up and instead of having a constant beam, that it's just a ball, that it's just a beam that results in a massive explosion, and that explosion leveling Ginza the way that was done for the budget of that fucking movie. Damn.
Yeah, there was some effects when they went to the digital effects. There was some that was
obviously, yeah, like it's
I
some of
just
it is
love
a
that
bit
a balloon company comes to save the day.
Yeah, but the
Also-
initial scenes with Godzilla where they're trying to shoot the ball in his face.
Also, it was obvious.
Look great.
It was obvious that he was going to survive flying into Godzilla too.
Yeah, obviously.
Before they introduced that he had a secret ejector seat.
Yes, obviously. But like, you also
should have killed him.
You also think too much about movies when you watch them. where I watch the movie.
I can't shut off my brain.
Consensus.
Yeah, I do. I watch the movie.
The proposal.
I don't give a fuck whether they survive or not. I am the perfect movie consumer.
Died. Step 3. Once a consensus was reached, the question got passed to the other nation within the same moiety. In this case, since the Mohawk were in the senior
I was
moiety,
slightly
that
wrong.
would mean the Seneca.
I was slightly wrong with how it worked. I thought it worked with the lesser sister and brother, or the lesser siblings first, and then it went to them, but I was slightly wrong.
Okay. So what? So it starts with the Mohawk, then the Seneca has to also agree with the Mohawk?
With whoever... So I guess the Onondaga can't introduce something. I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
But no,
yeah,
so
okay.
whoever is the one next to them is who gets it next. I thought it was just the smaller ones.
So theoretically, if the what is it, Seneca
Seneca, Cayuga, Oneida.
The Cayuga. So let's say the Cayuga introduced something. They would have to do what the Mohawk just did, and then they would have to pass it to their other one, who would then
which is the Oneida.
Okay, so that's actually not a bad way to do it. Whoever proposes
it's kind of like how you can introduce a bill in the House or Senate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is literally a copy paste of the system, pretty much. So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We're just basically trying to figure out how it's translating into the U.S. system.
For the time being, the Onondaga Firekeepers remained separate from this process. Within that sibling nation, the same process played itself out. There was another internal debate, and again, speakers got a chance to make their case. Just like last time, the question could not proceed until there was a consensus. Now, it starts to get complicated. If the two nations within the same moiety came to different consensuses, they would have to start the whole thing over again. Step 4. If that moiety reached a consensus, the issue got kicked across the fire for the other moiety's consideration.
Yeah, okay.
That moiety, in this case the junior moiety, would debate as one, and the issue would not proceed until they reached a consensus.
Interesting.
However, and this is key, the two moieties did not...
So because the other ones had to debate and come to a conclusion, these guys act as a single group to interpret what they want and act together. So is that must be how it works, period? Like they don't get to individually debate it. It's just together.
Unless you introduce it.
Interesting.
Have to reach.
So it's basically giving an open floor to everybody, theoretically, to introduce literally anything, provided you can convince the rest of the Confederacy that it's fine. Okay.
The same consensuses. Just to keep things interesting, we're going to pretend that happens here. Step 5. Finally, the Onondaga Firekeepers got to weigh in. As the host nation, they got to position themselves as a neutral third party. Just like everybody else, the Onondaga had to reach an internal consensus. Now in this case, where the two moieties disagreed, the Onondaga got to play the role of tiebreaker, and whatever they decided would become the final result. If, on the other hand, we were in a situation where the two moieties agreed, one of two things could happen. The Onondaga could simply endorse the group's decision, simple enough, or they could send the question all the way back to the beginning for a second round of debate. If, after that second round, it came back to them again, they had no choice but to agree.
Interesting.
Okay, there you go.
It's complicated, so let's give a simplified summary. A person would...
Don't. My advice, don't. The complicated explainer is needed. It really fucking is.
Introduce a question, then their nation would debate, then their sibling nation would debate, then the other moiety would debate, then the Onondaga would debate and offer their final approval. Each one of these steps required internal consensus. Let's consider the implications of a system like this. Internally, the Confederacy was extremely unbalanced. The two most powerful nations...
Why is the territory the same color as the outside ones? Did they expand themselves? Like, was this the Mohawk expanding up, and was this the Oneida going down? It was. Okay.
Nations were the Mohawk and the Seneca, and nobody else even came close. These two nations also happened to be located at opposite ends of the Confederacy. So take a moment and think, which situation would the Haudenosaunee want to avoid at all costs? It makes sense when you look at the map.
War?
What they wanted to avoid was the Mohawk taking one position, the Seneca taking another position, and everybody in the middle being forced to pick a side. A situation like that can lead to a civil war.
The thing is,
what did they do? They said
that a civil war did happen, though. The Mohawk sided with the British.
Yeah. But that's interesting that's why they're together.
Mohawk, Seneca, the group isn't even going to discuss your proposal until you two agree. If the two heavyweights could not reach a consensus, the smaller nations never entered the debate. A similar thing happened if the proposal came from the other side of the fire. If there was a consensus among the smaller nations, but the Mohawk and the Seneca couldn't come to terms, the issue was dropped. Nothing happened. What else would the Haudenosaunee want to avoid? Well, you wouldn't want the Mohawk or the Seneca dominating the council, lest you spawn some kind of Mohawk or Seneca empire. So how did they stop this? The council isolated the two most powerful nations in the senior
both
moiety.
Mohawk and Senecas.
Sorry, say that again?
I've dated both Mohawk and Senecas.
Oh, really?
Remember, the two moieties did not have to agree. So if the smaller nations said one thing, and the powerful nations said another thing, the Onondaga, another small nation, got to break that tie. In other words, if the Mohawk and the Seneca decided to gang up on the rest of the council, the smaller nations could still bypass them. The council counteracted the imbalance within the Confederacy.
It's
great. Really a remarkable invention. In the early 18th century, the Tuscarora Nation lost the war against the Europeans.
Thank you. I was about to say, what happens with the Tuscarora, though?
And then migrated north, straight into Haudenosaunee territory.
On, small sides.
The Oneida proposed offering the Tuscarora full membership into the Confederacy. The Tuscarora were also people.
Were they displaced?
Yeah.
Like what's their story?
They lost to the Europeans. So they went up the Appalachian Trail and migrated into. So they actually, I believe, they spoke Cherokee before they came in, but I'm not sure.
Of the Longhouse, same language, same culture. It made a lot of sense. Since the Oneida proposed
maybe
the idea,
they spoke the same language before they came as well.
Algonquin or Iroquois?
Iroquois.
Yeah, okay.
Next, after some internal debate, they agreed. With the junior moiety in agreement, the proposal was kicked across the fire to the senior moiety, who agreed as well. Finally, the Onondaga firekeepers were consulted. They gave the thumbs up, and with that, the proposal was adopted. In 1722, the 5 nations became the 6 nations. The Tuscarora were adopted into the junior moiety as a new youngest sibling. However, in a move that tells us that the Tuscarora were in no position to negotiate, they were not given any representation on the council.
Interesting.
Up until the mid-18th century, whenever European settlers wanted something from the Haudenosaunee, they would ask to see their chief.
Damn.
If you've made it this far, you should understand.
What?
The Tuscarora language went extinct in 2020.
Really?
But it's been revived.
Damn. Thank God. So there was clearly record of it then.
Mm-hmm. Because it exists that they spoke their own language before coming.
Okay.
That's a confusing request. Which chief? Even if they sent somebody, they couldn't make any decisions without first consulting with their...
This is literally
like
what
DC.
we've... this is literally what we were saying when we were discussing democratic confederalism and how centralized systems will work with decentralized systems in the episode that we should be dropping tomorrow. Publicly, at least. It's up on Patreon.
Oh no! I have to go home and export it, I think.
No, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Is it was whenever you get home is when that's being uploaded.
I get home on Sunday. Well, it'll be Monday for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it'll be uploaded then.
Maybe I already have it up there, but I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Could not conduct foreign policy without the council's approval. This centuries-long miscommunication was
genuinely funny that the Chiefs are like the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
is completely avoidable.
Speak to the chief.
In 1811, when DeWitt Clinton delivered his speech before the New York Historical Society, academia was just beginning to take the Haudenosaunee seriously. It was long overdue. That's why he devoted so much time trying to convince his peers that the Haudenosaunee were, in fact, the Romans of the Western world. It's unfortunate phrasing, and by now you understand.
It's also funny because, like, they say that we're based on the Roman Greek system. So to call them the Romans of the Western world is kind of like a double meaning to me, you know?
A little bit, yeah.
That it's not remotely true.
Because when we base it on the Romans,
you should take the Haudenosaunee as seriously as you take the Romans.
True.
After all, unlike the Romans, they're still here, still running what can plausibly be called the world's oldest democracy.
Hey, is that still?
Yes.
That's the new flag, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's it's the 5 nations with the great tree.
Yeah.
It's actually based off the wampum belt. That is the origin story.
The wampa fruit.
Wampum belt. Do you know what that is? The wampum?
Yeah, it's Crash Bandicoot fruit.
Wampum?
I think you've explained it to me before, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so, like, it's just they would make these they're like beads, right? Shells and beads, yeah. But it also incorporates the language and oral history in with them too.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
But it's like a bunch of strings and beads that were like weaved together. So that wampum belt, that was the law of great peace, is the flag.
Yeah. Okay. What about Diddy? I don't give a fuck about Diddy. Black ass thing.
Yeah, so I posted to my story, Costco, how made a video on it.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?